The storm howled over the frozen valley, its winds sharp enough to cut through even the thickest layers of fur and armor. Lieutenant Marcus stumbled forward, each step sinking into the snow. He had been walking for hours, guided only by a faint light in the distance. His mission was already lost, his squad scattered, their ship buried beneath ice after the ambush. Alone, wounded, and freezing, he had no choice but to follow the glow. His breath came in heavy bursts, steam trailing from his mouth. The storm clawed at him like a living thing, dragging him back toward the mountains, but Marcus refused to stop. Somewhere beyond the haze, that light promised shelter, maybe survival. Still, a voice in his head whispered it might also be a trap. Finally, he reached the source. A round hut, built from stone and carved into the mountainside, stood against the storm. Its doorway glowed with warm orange light, spilling onto the snow like fire against the cold. The sight made his knees weak. He pushed forward, nearly collapsing at the door. Before he could knock, it opened. She stood there, tall, elegant, and unlike any creature he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with a faint violet hue, her hair long and flowing like strands of midnight fire. Her eyes glowed faintly in the light, sharp and piercing, yet oddly inviting. She wore armor crafted from dark plates and leather, etched with markings he did not recognize. Every part of her radiated strength, beauty, and danger. For a moment, Marcus thought his mind was playing tricks, that the storm had broken him. But then she spoke, her voice smooth, carrying both warmth and warning. "You are far from home, human." Marcus froze. She knew what he was. His hand twitched toward the sidearm strapped to his belt, but her gaze made him stop. She raised one hand slowly, not in attack but in command. "You will freeze out here," she said. Her words were calm, almost kind, but her eyes told a different story. There was calculation in them, something hidden beneath her beauty. "Come inside, if you value your life." Marcus hesitated, torn between instinct and survival. Every lesson told him never to trust an alien, not alone, not this far from his people. But the cold gnawed at his bones, and he knew another hour outside would kill him. He stepped through the doorway. The warmth hit him instantly. Fire burned in the center of the hut, filling the space with golden light. Strange carvings decorated the walls, swirling symbols he could not understand. The place smelled faintly of herbs and smoke. Unlike anything from Earth, the alien girl moved with quiet grace, her eyes always on him, as if she expected him to break the silence first. She set down her spear by the wall, but never out of reach. "You walk into places you do not belong," she said softly. "Why?" Marcus met her gaze, steadying his breath. "Because I had no choice. My people are gone. I only wanted to live." Her eyes softened for only a second, then hardened again. She stepped closer, close enough that he could see faint patterns glowing beneath her skin, like energy pulsing through veins not quite human. "You may live," she said. "But survival always comes with a price." Her words hung in the warm air, heavier than the storm outside. Marcus realized that stepping into her hut might have saved him from the cold, but it had also placed him in a new danger. The fire in her eyes was not the fire of kindness. It was something deeper, darker, and far more dangerous than the storm he had escaped. Marcus sat close to the fire, his hands stretched toward the warmth. The numbness in his fingers faded, replaced by sharp, stinging pain as the blood returned. He breathed slowly, reminding himself he was alive for now. His eyes drifted around the hut, taking in the strange details. Every carving on the walls seemed alive, the patterns glowing faintly when the firelight touched them. Symbols of power, of history. He felt like he had stepped into a place forbidden to outsiders. The alien girl stood across from him, her violet skin glowing faintly in the firelight, her long purple hair falling across her shoulders. She moved without sound, graceful yet dangerous, like a predator circling prey. Her eyes never left him. "You fought your way here," she said at last, her voice calm but sharp. through storm, through blood. Not many would have survived. Marcus glanced at her spear resting against the wall. Even without it, she radiated strength. I didn't fight to be here. I just didn't want to die. Her lips curved faintly, though it was not quite a smile. Humans always claim they seek only survival. Yet survival for you often means destruction for others. Marcus shook his head. I'm not here to destroy. I told you I lost my people. My squad is gone. I don't even know if anyone else made it. She stepped closer, her glowing eyes narrowing. So you are alone. The words struck him like a blade. Alone. It was true, though hearing it from her lips made it heavier. He felt the cold of grief creep back into his chest despite the fire's heat. For a moment, her expression softened, but only for a breath. Then she leaned closer, her voice low. Alone men are dangerous. They have nothing to lose, Marcus met her gaze firmly. Or they have everything to prove. Her eyes widened slightly, not expecting his reply. Then she turned, walking to the far side of the hut where a pot of steaming liquid sat above the flames. She poured it into a carved cup and handed it to him. The smell was sharp, bitter, but inviting. He hesitated, then drank. Warmth spread through his body, easing the ache in his bones. You are not weak, she said, watching him carefully. That makes you different from the others I have seen. But difference is not always safety, Marcus frowned. Others? She turned away, her back to him now. The firelight traced the elegant lines of her armor, the alien symbols etched across it glowing faintly. You are not the first human to find this place. Some came seeking warmth. Some came seeking conquest. None left as they came. Her words tightened something in his chest. He wanted to ask what had happened to them, but the look in her eyes when she glanced back told him the answer was not something he wanted to hear. The storm outside howled louder, shaking the walls of the hut. The sound reminded Marcus that leaving was not an option. He was trapped here with her. The alien girl moved closer again, her expression unreadable. Her glowing eyes locked on him with unsettling focus, like she was peeling back layers he didn't even know he carried. You claim you want only life, but I see more inside you. A hunger. A fire. Humans always hide it, but it burns. Marcus felt his throat tighten. She was testing him, pushing him, trying to strip away his defenses. He forced his voice to stay steady. Maybe you're right. But that fire isn't only for destruction. It's also what keeps us alive. The silence that followed was heavy. The fire crackled, the storm screamed, but neither of them moved. Her eyes searched his face, as if weighing his soul. Then she spoke again, her voice softer but sharper than before. If you wish to stay alive in this hut, human, you must prove your fire is not a danger to me. Marcus felt the weight of her words. He had escaped the storm, but he realized now that survival here would not be simple. She had welcomed him in, but the warmth she offered was not safety. It was a test, and the real storm was standing right in front of him. Asterisk. The firelight flickered across the walls, making the strange carvings dance like shadows of another world. Marcus felt the warmth of the drink spread through him, but it did not calm his nerves. Every breath of the alien girl, every step she took across the stone floor, carried weight. She had welcomed him, yes, but each word from her lips felt more like a blade pressed against his throat than comfort. She moved closer, her violet skin glowing faintly against the fire's light, her purple eyes unblinking. You said you came only to live, she said, her voice soft but edged with steel. Then show me that you are not like the others. Prove you are not a liar. Marcus set the cup down slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. And how exactly do I prove that? Her lips curved slightly, not in kindness but in challenge. She turned and pointed toward a small chest carved from dark wood at the far side of the hut. Strange markings glowed across its surface. Inside that box, she said, is something no human has ever touched. Open it. If your heart is clean, the box will remain silent. If it is filled with greed or lies, it will burn you alive. Marcus frowned. That sounds like a trap. Her gaze did not waver. It is truth. My people built it long before you ever walked this land. If you are what you claim, you have nothing to fear. The storm howled louder outside, as though urging him to decide. Marcus's pulse raced, but he forced his body to move. He crossed the hut, his boots crunching softly against the stone floor. The box sat low, almost pulsing with a faint light, like a heartbeat. He crouched before it and placed his hands on the lid. It was warm, unnaturally so, as if alive. For a moment he hesitated, glancing back at her. She stood tall, arms crossed, watching every movement with eyes that missed nothing. Taking a deep breath, Marcus lifted the lid. The air in the hut shifted instantly. A rush of heat poured out, washing over him like fire. Inside the box lay a crystal, glowing red as if it held molten flame within. Its light bathed his face, and for a heartbeat, the crystal pulsed. Marcus's muscles tensed. Was this the moment it burned him? But the light steadied. The crystal's glow softened, turning from angry red to a calm golden hue. The warmth was no longer burning. It was gentle, almost welcoming. Marcus stared in shock. He was alive. The box had not destroyed him. Behind him, the alien girl's expression finally changed. Her sharp eyes widened slightly, her lips parting as though she had seen something she could not explain. For a second, she looked less like a warrior and more like someone caught between disbelief and curiosity. "You," she whispered. "No human has ever touched the crystal without being consumed. Why does it accept you?" Marcus stood slowly, his hand steady though his heart pounded in his chest. He met her gaze with quiet determination. "Maybe because I wasn't lying. I don't want your land. I don't want your power. I only want to live." Her stare lingered, filled with questions, with something deeper stirring behind the frost of her eyes. She stepped closer, her movements slower now, more careful. The spear by the wall remained untouched. "The crystal does not lie," she said finally. "It reveals the truth of the soul. And it has judged you." The storm outside began to fade, the winds calming as though even nature itself listened to what had just happened. Marcus realized that something inside the hut had shifted, not only in the crystal but in her. She looked at him differently now. Not as prey, not as a trespasser, but as something else entirely. The crystal's golden glow slowly faded back into silence, its light dimming until the box closed itself with a soft click. Marcus stepped back, still feeling its warmth lingering in his hands. He had expected pain, maybe even death, but instead the strange relic had accepted him. The alien girl's eyes never left him. She had seen humans fall screaming when they touched the crystal, their greed and lies burning them alive. Yet this one stood unharmed. Her expression was no longer cold, but unreadable, as though she was caught between suspicion and reluctant awe. "You confuse me, human," she said softly, her voice steady but slower than before. "The crystal does not spare liars. It does not show mercy. And yet it glowed for you." Marcus met her gaze, his own calm though his heart still pounded. "Maybe because I told the truth. I don't have a plan. I don't have an army. I only had the storm at my back, and this hut was the only light." She studied him carefully, walking in a slow circle around him. Her boots barely made a sound against the stone, but her presence was heavy. "No man walks without shadows," she murmured. "Even the purest carry secrets. What are you hiding?" Marcus took a breath, then answered simply, "Fear, loss, and the hope that anyone will see me as more than a weapon." The fire crackled loudly between them, filling the silence that followed. For the first time she looked away, her gaze drifting to the carvings on the walls. Her hand brushed across one of the glowing symbols, her fingers tracing it with quiet thought. "My people do not believe in hope," she said finally. "We believe in strength, in judgment, in survival. Hope is a flame that burns out when the storm grows too strong." Marcus tilted his head. "Maybe that's why I'm still alive. Because humans carry hope even when everything else is gone." Her jaw tightened, but her eyes betrayed something different, something unsettled. She turned back toward him, and for the first time, her voice lost its edge. "You speak of hope as though it is stronger than fear. But fear keeps you alive." "Maybe," Marcus said, his voice steady. "But hope gives you a reason to live." The words seemed to strike deeper than any weapon. She stood silently, her glowing eyes fixed on him as though searching for cracks. Yet what she found only confused her more. At last, she stepped back and lifted her spear from the wall. For a moment Marcus braced himself, thinking the test was not over. But instead of striking him, she lowered it beside the fire, letting the blue glow of its tip fade away. "You may stay," she said finally. "The storm will kill you if you leave. But understand this, I trust you no more than I trust the wind. If you betray what the crystal showed me..." Her eyes hardened again, though her voice was lower now. "Not even hope will save you." Marcus nodded slowly, accepting her terms. He knew this was not safety. It was only the beginning of something far more dangerous. She had allowed him into her hut, but he could feel the weight of her gaze, still measuring every breath he took. As he settled near the fire again, he realized she was not just guarding herself. She was guarding secrets. Secrets hidden in the carvings, in the glowing crystal, and in the fire that burned in her eyes, and he was now caught inside them. Marcus rested by the fire, though his mind refused to relax. The warmth of the hut eased his body, but the alien girl's eyes kept him tense. She moved like a shadow, quiet but constant, always aware of his presence. Every time her gaze lingered on him, he felt as if she were peeling away layers he didn't know he had. The storm outside had faded into silence. Only the soft crackle of fire and the faint hum of the carvings on the walls filled the hut. He traced the symbols with his eyes, noticing how they glowed faintly, almost in rhythm with the fire. They were not decoration. They were alive, pulsing with a power he did not understand. Finally Marcus spoke. "These markings, they mean something, don't they?" The girl's head turned sharply, her violet hair shifting across her shoulder. For a moment she said nothing, then her lips parted. "They are not for your eyes, human. They are the history of my people, carved into stone long before you set foot on this world." Marcus studied her carefully. "If they're history, then why do they glow?" Her expression hardened, but only for a second. "Because they are not just history. They are memory. They live as long as we do. Touch them, and they will show you what came before." Marcus felt a shiver down his spine. "And if I touch them?" Her eyes locked on his, sharp and piercing. "Then you would carry the weight of our pain. And perhaps you would not survive it." He hesitated, then leaned closer to the carvings. She didn't stop him, though her hand hovered near her spear. Slowly, he stretched out his fingers and touched the glowing lines. In an instant, his vision blurred. The fire, the hut, even the girl faded away. Images burned into his mind, armies clashing across frozen plains, beasts roaring as they tore through human soldiers, alien warriors raising their spears in defiance. He saw fire raining from human ships, villages burning, children crying in the snow. He felt their fear, their hatred, their endless fight to survive. Then, just as quickly, the vision ended. He staggered back, his breath ragged. The girl stood before him, watching closely. "Now you know," she said. "Now you see why we cannot trust your kind." Marcus's heart pounded, the weight of what he saw pressing heavy in his chest. "I saw war. I saw destruction, but I also saw your people fighting to protect each other. That's not so different from us." Her eyes narrowed. "Do not compare us to your kind," but Marcus didn't back down. I have fought in wars too. I've seen villages burn. I've seen soldiers die. I know what it means to lose everything. You think humans are only destroyers, but maybe we're just like you. Fighting storms, fighting enemies, fighting to hold on to what matters. Her expression wavered, a flicker of uncertainty breaking through her steel mask. She stepped closer, her voice quieter now. If you speak truth, then you carry a burden greater than I expected. You are not the first human to touch our memories, but you are the first who did not collapse under them. Marcus met her gaze firmly. Maybe that's because I already carry the weight of my own. The firelight flickered between them, casting long shadows on the walls. She stood in silence for a long moment, her eyes unreadable. Then she whispered words he almost didn't hear, perhaps. You are not what I thought. The fire burned low, its light dim but steady. Marcus sat across from the alien girl, his hand still trembling faintly from the visions carved into the stone. He had seen her people's pain, their battles, their losses. He understood now why her eyes carried so much weight, why every word she spoke seemed like both a warning and a test. She moved closer, her violet skin glowing softly in the fading light. Her spear lay untouched by the wall, but Marcus knew her true weapon was not steel or crystal. It was the way she looked at him, as if his soul itself was under trial. You saw our past, she said quietly. You felt our wounds. Now you know why we see humans as fire that consumes. Marcus nodded slowly. I saw, and I won't pretend it isn't true. But fire can destroy, or it can keep you alive. It depends on how you use it. Her eyes narrowed, but there was no anger in them now. Only thought. She studied him with a silence that made the air heavy. Then, with deliberate slowness, she lowered herself to sit across from him, the fire between them. You speak of choice, she said. My people do not believe choice changes fate. We believe storms always return, stronger than before. Hope is only a pause before the wind tears it away. Marcus leaned forward, his voice steady. Then maybe that's the difference between us. We don't fight because we believe we'll always win. We fight because even in the storm, we refuse to give up. Her lips parted, as though she wanted to argue, but the words didn't come. Instead, she stared into the fire, the flickering flames reflected in her glowing eyes. For the first time, her shoulders seemed less rigid, her voice less sharp. You are not like the others, she admitted at last. The crystal spared you. The memories did not break you. Perhaps. You are not here by accident. Marcus frowned. What do you mean? She turned her head toward the door, where the storm had finally gone silent. The air outside was calm, the snow falling in soft flakes. This hut was built to test those who entered. Many came before you. None endured. But you, her eyes returned to him, sharp and burning. You carry both fire and hope. That is rare. Dangerous, even. Marcus felt the weight of her words, but he did not look away. So what happens now? She rose slowly, lifting her spear once more. But instead of aiming it at him, she planted it firmly in the ground beside the fire. Now you leave this place alive. Not as an invader, not as a prisoner, but as one who was judged and found worthy. The words hung heavy in the air. For a moment, Marcus almost couldn't believe them. She had tested him with storm, with crystal, with memory, and still, she let him live. But as he stood, she stepped close, her voice low and edged with warning. Do not mistake this for trust, human. If you ever betray what you showed me tonight, if you ever bring fire without hope, then no hut, no storm, no world will protect you from me. Her glowing eyes locked with his, fierce and unflinching. Marcus nodded slowly. Then I'll make sure I never give you a reason to regret sparing me. For the first time, her lips curved, not into a smile, but into something that held both challenge and respect. Then she turned away, her figure framed in the warm light of the hut against the endless white beyond. Marcus stepped into the snow, the cold biting at him again, but his chest burned with something stronger than fear. He had come seeking survival. What he carried now was more than life, it was proof that even among enemies, hope could still be seen. And though her eyes had hidden more than warmth, he knew they had also seen something in him she could not deny.